Hey, everybody, it's Eric J. Olson for another live episode of the Managing Partners podcast. Today, I'm joined by Joshua Goldberg, an IP lawyer out of Washington, D.C. Hey, Joshua.
Hey, Eric. How are you today?
I am doing great. How are things up in D.C.?
Life is interesting here in DC, as I suspect it is in many places these days.
It's certainly different, that's for sure. Actually, yeah, when we talk, it'd be interesting to know like how things have kind of changed for you. I assume you're talking about COVID more than anything.
Absolutely,
Oh
sir.
yeah, and you probably have a little bleed over with the beltway politics that happen probably much more
Yeah.
intensely there than it does say here in the Norfolk area. But hey, well, to get started, it's always nice to kind of find out a little bit about our guests. Maybe
Mhm.
something personal, and then how more about your firm and what you guys do, and maybe the kinds of clients that you deal with.
Sure. So, me personally, as you said, I live in Washington, D.C. I actually live in the city, which is not necessarily true for everybody around here. I've lived here for almost 25 years now, which by DC standards makes me a native Washingtonian.
That is true.
Yeah, grew up in New York, Long Island, went out to St. Louis for university, came here to go to law school at George Washington, and I've been here since. I'm here with my family, my wife and two kids who are 7 and 10 years old. Like most people, my kids are virtual schooling right now. So it's been a big adjustment. Thankfully, it's gone better since the summer than it did in the spring last year. I wouldn't say it's as good as them being in class, but you have to do what you can, make the best of it, and move on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a teenager who is being well, I guess homeschooling herself, really.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, she's locked up in her room every day and taking classes. It's a different world for sure. And you mentioned living in DC, and I'm from Burke, Virginia, which is right outside of the
Oh,
Beltway by Springfield. That's where I
sure.
went to high school, and yeah, it wasn't. I tell people that I'm from DC, sometimes Northern Virginia, if they're a little more familiar with the area, but it's a big metropolitan area for sure, DC. Yeah, the kinds of clients. I mean, have you found that you specialize in? I mean, like how's government work? Any of that, or is it all private industry?
No, we do some government work. Work with Department of Agriculture, Forest Services, some work with Department of Homeland Security, a few other entities, but it's not the main driver of our business. Mostly it's with private entities and universities. We do a lot of university work too, from all over. So a lot of people get clients that are just local to them, which is absolutely not our experience. Our clients come from all over the world, which has been a very big challenge during these pandemic COVID times.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, a couple questions right off the bat. So dealing with colleges, are you dealing with and I know knowing that you're an IP lawyer, are you dealing with um, inventions that are coming out of those colleges, and then you're trying to protect them?
Absolutely. And what we usually do is we work with the technology transfer offices at the various universities. They come to us and they say, we have our researchers who are doing X, Y, or Z. Can we get a patent on it? And we help them through the process to make sure their technologies are protected, hopefully to get them out for licensing so that they can in turn drive revenue to the university.
So, in that situation, I've heard that there are IP shares between the inventor and the university. Is that a typical thing? And is it a set formula, or is it kind of sounds like it's, or looks like it's kind of negotiable?
It's all negotiable. A lot depends on the specific university, the specific country you're in. For example, if you're in Germany, you have one set of rules, laws that apply as to what the inventor is entitled to. In Japan, it's entirely separate set of laws. Most countries don't have a preset amount. It really is what is it that's in the agreement between the university and the researcher or the teacher, the what have you.
Yeah, that sounds like it would make sense that it's going to vary university to university and certainly country. So you do international work as well?
Oh, absolutely. A big portion of our work is international.
Oh wow. Okay, great. And then the second part that I wanted to ask you about with universities in particular is knowing that universities are kind of under fire right now because of COVID, at least when it comes to finances. Has that had an impact on your clients?
Absolutely. Not just for universities. It's all across the board. All of our clients are seeing issues with budgets, taking longer to get approvals, taking longer to get things done, even if they have approvals. And it's no different than private industry, where we're all spread out, we're all working remotely, and work just isn't the same as it was before. So we've seen a lot of those issues. The biggest issue up front, when COVID started and everything went into lockdown, not just here, but around the world, was payments. Payments got very slow from a lot of different places. And that's certainly improved, but it's not like it was before the pandemic. What we're starting to see now that I hope is not a trend is how much research is actually being done. Are people able to go into the lab and collaborate and do those sorts of things? If you're in the software area, it's easier because everyone's working from home, everyone's on their computer all the time. It's not a big deal. If you're in the pharma chemical space, which is where I am, it can be a lot more difficult. People have to be able to be in the same place at the same time, and not everyone's set up for that right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's a lot of infrastructure that goes around pharma as well, as far as the lab and whatnot. And if you don't have access to that, you can't be inventing.
That's right. And, when everybody went into lockdown in the very beginning, you have some studies you're doing, some research you're doing that requires you to be literally in front of whatever it is you're working on every single day. And people just couldn't get there, physically couldn't get there. So some people's research was really set back.
So, I can imagine a huge impact there. You mentioned before we went live that you're as a managing partner, you came into an existing company and then you became a managing partner. Or actually, I don't know if you were hired as a managing partner or became
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
So I wanted to find out, have you been there long enough to see the expansion of the law firm's clients going from local to national or from national to international?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I started with my law firm back in the summer of 1997, after my first year of law school. And I knew nothing about the practice of law or the practice of patent law back then. I was a summer intern. That's how I was hired. And this is so long ago that I love telling people this, especially younger people. Back then, I had the only computer in my office that had a modem on it, right? So if somebody needed to get on the internet to do a search or something like that, guess what? I didn't have a computer to work on for however long it took them to do their search. So everything has changed dramatically from back then till now. I worked my way up over the years to first become an attorney, then become a partner, now be a co-managing partner with my fellow partner, Jerry Meyer. And, back then, yes, most of our clients were local in some way, US focused, but we had a lot of clients that did work overseas that they wanted to protect their patents, especially in the pharmaceutical field, where they saw, oh, well, this is going to be a big product, not just with sales in the US, but around the world. We need to file for patent protection in all those other countries throughout Europe, Asia, Australia, whatever. So we were sending out a lot of work to various law firms in these countries. And we spent a lot of time and money and effort trying to figure out who the best people to work with in those countries were. Who can get the job done, who was reliable, who had expertise in those fields. So we traveled a lot and we talked to a lot of people to build up that network. And it took a lot of time. And as a result of all that effort, we developed this huge international network that started sending work back to us, whether just from the lawyers themselves or referrals, people that they referred to us in their various countries, to where now a good chunk of our work, a very sizable chunk, comes from outside the US coming in where they need help protecting what they're doing in the US.
That is great. That's a great story and a great way of growing your business too, right? So you basically just take care of your customers as the best that you can. And hopefully your customers, because of the work that you do for them and just because they're good, smart people, they're growing and they have needs beyond what you're already doing for them. And as they grow, you kind of follow them along as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, awesome. Over time, the client base shifts and changes and you have to adapt to go with that shifting client base. Clients don't last forever. And, we need to do what we do to make sure our clients are happy.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. That's fantastic. So if I had a patent and I needed to talk to an IP lawyer, what would kind of set you apart, you think, from some of the other IP lawyers that are out there? Why would I go with you guys?
Well, a few different reasons. Number one, we like to do what's called an IP audit, where we really learn what your business is, what your goals are, all the different components of what you're doing, and try to figure out, okay, what IP do you already own? What IP could you possibly own? What are you working on? What's under development? And come to you with, a punch list. Here's everything you own, right? Here's everything that conceivably you could go file for protection. Here's everything that we think you really should and we recommend you file to protect. And then, we come up with that long-term business strategy. Where are you operating? Where are you manufacturing? Where do you hope to sell? I'm not interested really in just doing one-off, right? Somebody comes to me, I want you to file a patent application for me, and that's the end of it. I want to learn your business and how can we drive value to your business. I like to tell a story about a client we used to have, especially pharmaceutical company. They did topicals, skincare stuff, where when they came to us, it was a company that was owned by two brothers. One of the brothers was in charge of their US operations. One was in charge of international operations. And the one who was in charge of international operations had recently died. When they came to us, they said, look, we know we've been filing patents. We know we have some protection. We don't know what it is. The one brother died. Can you tell us what's the list of everything we own, number one? And then number two, once we get through there, our goal is to increase in value 5 times in 5 years. So we're a $200 million company now. We want to become a $1 billion company, and we want to use IP to get there. So, of course, first we started with, okay, let's see what you have. And we came up with, okay, you have protections for these products throughout Europe, some protections in Korea where you have operations, some in Brazil where you have operations, and not a whole lot else. And then we went through a big campaign with them, not just for filing patent applications and getting them patents on products that they had, but also looking at competitors in the marketplace that might be acquisition targets, both from the perspective of these people have interesting IP that was going to increase your value, and they have products out there in the market that's going to increase your revenue. And maybe not 5 years, but 6 years later, the company sold to Big Pharma for $1 billion, right? So we helped them get there. We helped them meet to their goal, maybe a little later than they expected, but we did it. Now, we did our job so well that they sold. Big Pharma let us play out the string, and we finished up the work we had. And then Big Pharma said we have our own lawyers in house. So thank you. You did a really good job, and hopefully we'll work together someday. And we haven't really, but that's okay. But that's an example of the kind of things we do.
That's a great story. And by the way, amazing growth. So, if anyone was disappointed by growing their revenue by 5x in 6 years, like I don't know, their expectations.
There was no really disappointment there, believe me.
Yeah, that's incredible. Like I wouldn't mind that. Wow. You did good there for sure.
We did good there. And now things are different. I mentioned earlier, we were talking about university work. We also do a lot of work with smaller companies, medium-sized companies, startups, where they're very concerned about all their spending, right? That's something we were talking about. Patents is a significant spend, especially if you're trying to protect around the world, because you have to file in each country.
Yeah.
What we like to do with a lot of those clients is, okay, we make use of the patent office, US Patent Office systems and procedures. You pay a little extra money up front in an official fee, but we'll get you an answer in a year. Can we get a patent or not? And that helps you decide, is this worth filing around the world and having that increased spend, or should we put our resources somewhere else? It's a program that is generally available, but not a lot of people participate in it to the extent that we do. And I think that's something that really distinguishes us.
That's really interesting. I'd never heard of that before. That's cool. Yeah. So we talked about your client who wanted to 5x their revenue in 5 years. They got it in 6. Really incredibly impressive, actually. What about you guys in the next 5 or 10 years? What do you think your growth is going to be, or what do you have any plans to grow?
Oh, absolutely. We always have plans to grow. The way I look at it is if you're not planning and looking to grow, you're planning and looking to shrink, right? Which I'm not terribly interested in. So the past year has been a big challenge that way. We've had to do a whole lot more in the digital arena and online networking than we ever had before. And at first it was a struggle just trying to figure out, what is this? What do we do? How do we manage this without being able to go and see people? Because that was always our bread and butter, visiting people, having lunch meetings, coffees, building that referral network where somebody would introduce us and bring us along to a client or a potential client. And now none of that's happening. I've been grounded basically since March of last year, just like many people. So we're doing a lot of Zoom meetings, doing webinars, reaching out to people, having online meet and greets. I'm always looking for opportunities to educate and present to different groups. And really, I am focused on that small to medium-sized company area because they're the ones who need the most help. And they're the ones who generally realize we don't know what we don't know. Please educate us so we know what to do now and what are the best practices.
Yeah, that's great. Excellent. So you also talked about staying close with your clients, and you actually just mentioned networking with them, and then they introduce you to other prospective clients, and then also growing with your clients, which is a fantastic marketing strategy. Are there any other kinds of marketing strategies that you've employed that have worked well for you?
It's the constant outreach. Honestly, it's requesting feedback. How are we doing? What can we improve? What else should we be doing? Is there anything else we can offer? And it's also talking to colleagues I have in the industry. Hey, what are you seeing? What trends are you noticing? And this is what we're seeing. Are you seeing the same thing? To try to stay ahead of things, right? To see where the industry is going, see where clients are going, and to make sure that we're keeping up with the services that our clients and potential clients expect.
Very nice. I love it. That's great. Well, Joshua, this has been great. If someone wants to reach out and find out a little bit more about you or your firm, where should they go?
Well, I can always be reached by email at jgoldberg@naflaw.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. And our website is www.naflaw.com. So if anybody has any questions or is looking for more information, just reach out. I'm happy to help at all times.
That's awesome. And yes, you are easy to find on LinkedIn. That's how we connected. So that worked out very nice.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for your time, Joshua. I appreciate it. And for everyone else, it sounds like Joshua and his firm have a firm grasp on their marketing. But if you are looking for marketing assistance for your law firm, Array Digital focuses on website design, online ads, SEO, and social media. So reach out at arraylaw.com. Thanks again, Joshua.
Thank you, Eric.
Take care.